So when you're a mom and you're kind of wanting to sort of have a play group or just whatever, sometimes it's easy to get together with other moms and you let your kids play and you get along and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes if you're moving to a new place, me always, and you want to venture outward, sometimes the easiest way is to go do MOPS. So MOPS is kind of this organized playgroup thing where the adults get to be with the moms and the kids get to play with each other, and I have both good and bad things to say about it. I mean, it was invented by people, so it's got both good and bad to it, of course. Well, the main problem that I usually ended up happening for me was that they always met in churches, and so they sort of were affiliated with a lot of people who were Christian, but I mean, they weren't necessarily affiliated with the church that they were meeting in the house of. So it was kind of interesting. But a roundabout way of saying that most of the times I just didn't really fit into the ladies because, I'm like crunchy or whatever. So, or attachment parenting or whatever, which finally I found an attachment parenting group. Yay! And so that's been wonderful because then there's people more crunchy than me and less crunchy than me, and it's awesome. So, intermittently, before I had done that, like I said, I used to go to MOPS, and I've gone to MOPS in many different locations. So, I've gotten to see them from all different, areas, and sometimes they're comprised of really easygoing gals, and sometimes, they're very, well, it's all different kinds. Now, one of the structures of the hierarchy is of it that there are these, like, I don't even know what they call them. They're sort of like the equivalent of a den mother or something that, like, there's this older mom who's like, her kids are probably in college, and so she's a good person to reference if you have a question about something. So sometimes what these ladies will do at the beginning is kind of give a little brief, sort of inspiring talk, and then, we'll break up to do our craft as adults, and the kids will go and do their thing. So, like I said, a lot of times I just didn't get along with these people, and part of it has to do with that I'm an attachment parent, and, people just want to talk about spanking or something. So, they look at me like I've got 3 heads coming from Mars or something that, I don't spank and I don't consider it. So, something like that kind of happened once with this one older mom who read an excerpt from this book that has to do with like reducing the amount of verbal toxicity in your house or something. I don't even know. I should look the book up in Amazon because I think I saw what it was. And it made me so angry for all these years that I carried this with every single move that I went on. I moved this annoying piece of paper with me every time that I have moved in 13 years because this paper made me angry. I mean, people keep things that they like. I not only keep things that I like, I keep things that make me angry. And there's a reason for that. But anyways, so I'm going to read this to you, and I want to know what you think because I'll tell you what I thought. Okay, it's a little story. It's called Father Forgets. Listen, son, as I'm saying this as you lie asleep. One little paw crumpled under your cheek, and the blonde curls stickily wet on your damp forehead. I have stolen into your room alone just a few minutes ago as I sat reading my paper in the library. A stifling wave of remorse swept over me. Guiltily, I came to your bedside. These are the things I was thinking, son. I had been cross with you. I scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab with a towel. I took you to task for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of your things on the floor. At breakfast, I found fault too. You spilled things. You gulped down your food. You put your elbows on the table. You spread butter too thick on your bread. And as you started off to play and I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy," and I frowned and I said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I came up the road, I spied you, down on your knees playing marbles. There were holes in your stockings. I humiliated you before your boyfriends by marching you ahead of me to the house. Stockings were expensive, and if you had to buy them, you would be more than careful. Imagine that, son from a father. Do you remember later, when I was reading in the library, how you came in timidly with a sort of a hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper impatiently at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one tempestuous plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me, and your small arms tightened with an affection that God has set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. Well, son, if it was shortly afterwards that my paper slipped from my hands, and a terrible sickening fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward to you for being a boy. It was not that I did not love you. It was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by the yardstick of my own years. And there was so much that was good and fine and true in your character. The little heart of you was as big as the dawn itself over the wide hills. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush in and kiss me good night. Nothing else matters tonight, son. I have come to your bedside in the darkness, and I have knelt there ashamed. If it is a feeble statement, I know you would not understand these things if I told them to you during your waking hours. But tomorrow I will be a real daddy. I will chum with you and suffer when you suffer and laugh when you laugh. I will bite my tongue when impatient words come. I will keep saying as if it were a ritual, he is nothing but a boy, a little boy. Okay, so at the outset, yeah, beautiful, sweet, amazing, because in the end he gets it and then he resolves to, do something different. And maybe it's not so much exactly that the story made me angry, but probably the things that the lady said afterwards, because I didn't see her focusing on ways that he would learn to accept his son instead of thinking of all of the things that he had to keep himself from saying. So if you're still feeling the same way but you're just not saying it, then the child is going to feel your dissatisfaction with them, whether you've said it or not. It's going to be, because if you don't deal with your feelings, they're going to come out in some way. Kids just sense things. They know. You can't, pull things over on them. They know. And then she got into this whole thing about spanking, which is probably what made me the most angry with her. So afterwards, I got into some kind of a little spatty little argument with her over it. And I think that was the last time I talked to her. And then it was even worse because I had to go into some room and chit and chat about that story and about spanking. And of course, I'm the only one sitting there saying, no, I have 2 kids and they're very well behaved and I've never spanked them and this and that and the other. And then everyone just like, self-righteous, rah, rah, rah. And then I'm like, no, it's just, you can do whatever you want with your kids, but I don't. And then, they come with those snotty retorts. Well, you'll wait until you see. Well, at that time they were like, what, 5 and 3, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I have lots to say about spanking. Maybe I should just make a whole vlog about spanking. I have avoided like standing on that spanking whole issue just because, people are going to be like on one side or the other and then they get mad at you and I'm like, maybe I should just do it and not care. I mean, not spank, just talk about it. Anyways, so I'm going to put the link in for this book and I'd like to hear what you think back about that article or experiences that you may have had like that. Not even just, as a child from a parent, but with other friends that in ways that you might have found yourself thinking critically instead of, just accepting them or what have you. And yeah, if you have like your spanking statement, I don't care if it's positive or negative, just say what it is. Just say what it is. I will not stop comments unless, people are mean, but you guys are not mean to me. So awesome. All right. Well, take care and I'm wishing you bright blessings of peace. Take care.